A woman pulls into a rest stop somewhere in Tennessee, middle of the night, just trying to make it home. She's got a legal firearm in her car. She's following what she believes are the rules. But the moment she crosses into the next state without realizing their laws are completely different, everything changes. One traffic stop, one question from an officer, and suddenly she's facing felony charges that could end her freedom. That's not a movie plot. That's happening to real people right now because gun laws in America are a patchwork of rules that don't line up, and most folks have no idea where the legal lines actually are. The Second Amendment sounds simple when you read it. People assume it gives them blanket permission to carry a firearm anywhere, anytime, as long as they're a law-abiding citizen. And to be fair, the language does sound that way. But here's what most gun owners don't realize. The way courts interpret those rights and the way states enforce their own laws create two entirely separate realities. You can be completely legal in your home state and become a criminal the second you drive across a state line. That confusion isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. And it's landing people in jail who genuinely thought they were doing everything right. If you care about understanding how these laws actually work in the real world, not just in theory, then stay with me. This channel breaks down the legal systems that affect everyday people, and I'm going to walk you through the gaps that nobody else is talking about. Hit that subscribe button because these explanations can save you from making a costly mistake you didn't even know was possible. Let's start with what most people believe versus what actually happens. A lot of folks think the Second Amendment gives them a universal right to carry a gun, and in a perfect legal world, maybe that would be true. But we don't live in that world. We live in a country where each state has its own gun laws, its own permit system, and its own definitions of what's legal and what's not. Some states honor permits from other states, some don't. Some states don't require permits at all, and some will arrest you immediately if you're carrying without their specific paperwork. Here's a concrete example. You live in a state with constitutional carry. That means you can carry a concealed firearm without a permit. You decide to take a road trip. You drive through 3 states to visit family. 2 of those states don't recognize constitutional carry from your home state. The 3rd state requires a permit that you don't have. You get pulled over for speeding. The officer asks if you have any weapons. You say yes, because you're trying to be honest and cooperative. Now you're being charged with illegal possession. You didn't break into a house. You didn't threaten anyone. You were just driving with a legal gun in a different state. But the law doesn't care about your intentions. This is the reality gap. People think federal law protects them everywhere. It doesn't. People think common sense applies. It doesn't. What you think should be legal and what the law says is legal are often 2 completely different things. And when those worlds collide, it's not the law that bends. It's your life that gets turned upside down. Now let's talk about how we got here. For a long time, gun rights were debated, mostly at the state and local level. Cities and states passed their own laws. Some were strict, some were loose. The Supreme Court didn't really step in much. But then a major shift happened. The court started issuing rulings that changed the landscape. One of the biggest was a decision that said the Second Amendment applies to individuals, not just militias. That was huge. It confirmed that regular citizens have a personal right to own firearms for self-defense. But even that ruling didn't settle everything. It left states with room to regulate how, where, and when people can carry guns. Then came another ruling a few years later. This one struck down laws in certain states that made it almost impossible for regular people to get carry permits. The court said, if you're going to let people carry guns, you can't make the process so difficult that it's basically a ban. That ruling forced several states to change their systems. But here's the thing. Changing the system on paper doesn't mean the reality on the ground changes overnight. Some states adjusted quickly, others dragged their feet, and others found new ways to make it hard without technically violating the ruling. What that means for you is this. Even though the Supreme Court has said certain things are protected, the way those protections get applied depends on where you are, who's enforcing the law, and how much money you have to fight back if something goes wrong. If you're in a state that supports gun rights, you'll probably be fine. If you're in a state that's hostile to gun ownership, you might face charges even if you're technically following the rules. It's not fair, but it's real. Here's where people get tripped up the most. Traveling with firearms. You think you're covered because you have a permit. But permits don't work like driver's licenses. A driver's license from one state is valid in every state. A gun permit is not. Some states have agreements to honor each other's permits. Those are called reciprocity agreements, but not all states participate. And even in states that do, the rules about where you can carry, how you have to transport the gun, and what kind of firearm is allowed can all be different. Let's say you're flying to another state and you want to bring your gun. Federal law allows you to transport firearms in checked luggage if they're unloaded and locked in a hard case. That part is clear. But once you land, state law takes over. If that state doesn't recognize your permit, you can't legally carry the gun outside your hotel room. You might not even be able to keep it in your car depending on local laws. And if you get pulled over and the officer finds it, you could be arrested even though you followed every federal rule about transporting it. People also get confused about vehicles. In some states, you can keep a gun in your car without a permit as long as it's not loaded or it's in a locked container. In other states, having a gun in your car is treated the same as carrying it on your body, and you need a permit. In a few states, even having ammunition in the same part of the car as the gun can be illegal. These aren't small details. These are the differences between going home and going to jail. Public places are another minefield. You might have a carry permit, but that doesn't mean you can carry everywhere. Schools are almost always off limits. Federal buildings are banned, courthouses, post offices, airports beyond the checkpoint. Those are federal restrictions. Then states add their own. Some ban guns in bars, some ban them in restaurants that serve alcohol, some ban them in parks or government offices or hospitals, and private property owners can ban guns even if the state allows them. If a store puts up a sign that says no firearms and you walk in with a gun, you could be charged with trespassing or worse. Here's a scenario that happens more than you'd think. A guy has a concealed carry permit. He's at a shopping mall. He sees a sign on the door that says no weapons. He thinks, well, I'm concealed, so nobody will know. He goes in. Security cameras catch a glimpse of his holster. Security confronts him. Police are called. Now he's being escorted out, possibly arrested, definitely banned from the property. And depending on the state, he might face criminal charges just for ignoring that sign. The permit doesn't override private property rights. Interactions with police are another place where things go wrong fast. Let's say you get pulled over. You have a gun in the car. What do? Some states require you to immediately tell the officer you have a firearm. Other states don't require it, but it's still a good idea. The problem is, if you announce it the wrong way or reach for your wallet at the wrong time, the situation can escalate in seconds. Officers are trained to be cautious. If they think you're reaching for a weapon, things can go sideways even if you were just trying to be honest and cooperative. The safest approach is this. Keep your hands visible. Tell the officer calmly that you have a firearm and where it is. Don't reach for anything unless they tell you to. Follow their instructions exactly. Don't argue about your rights in that moment. You can't win a legal debate on the side of the road. Your goal is to get through the interaction safely and without charges. If you think your rights were violated, you deal with that later through a lawyer, not during the traffic stop. Now let's talk about what happens when someone makes a mistake. Maybe they didn't know the law. Maybe they assumed their permit covered them. Maybe they were in a hurry and didn't think it through. Whatever the reason, they end up charged with illegal possession or carrying without a permit. Those charges are serious. In many states, they're felonies. A felony conviction means you lose your gun rights permanently. You also lose voting rights in some states. You'll have trouble finding a job. You might lose professional licenses. Your life gets drastically harder. Some people think they can just explain the situation to the judge and everything will be fine. That almost never works. Ignorance of the law isn't a defense. The fact that you didn't mean to break the rule doesn't matter. The law says what it says, and if you violated it, you're guilty. The only way out is either proving the law doesn't apply to your specific situation, which is rare, or negotiating a plea deal where you plead to a lesser charge. Either way, you're going to need a lawyer, and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars at minimum. Prevention is 1,000 times better than trying to fix a mistake after it happens. So here's what you actually need to do if you own a firearm and you travel or carry it outside your home. First, know the laws in your home state inside and out. Don't assume. Look them up. Read the actual statutes or talk to a lawyer who specializes in gun law. Know where you can carry, where you can't, and what the rules are for your vehicle. Second, if you're traveling to another state, research that state's laws before you go. Don't rely on what you heard from a friend or read in a forum. Go to that state's official website or find a reliable legal resource. Check if they honor your permit. Check their rules for transporting firearms. Check their restrictions on where you can carry. Write it down if you need to. Don't leave it to memory. Third, if you're flying, follow federal rules exactly. Gun unloaded, locked hard case, declared at the ticket counter. Don't try to be sneaky. Don't pack it in your carry-on, even by accident. Airlines and TSA take this stuff seriously, and getting caught with a gun at a checkpoint is a federal offense that will ruin your year. Fourth, respect private property. If a business says no guns, don't bring your gun inside. It's their property. They make the rules. You don't have a Second Amendment right to carry on someone else's private land. If you don't like their policy, shop somewhere else. It's not worth the legal risk. Fifth, if you're ever in doubt, err on the side of caution. If you're not sure whether something is legal, don't do it. Leave the gun at home. Leave it locked in your hotel. Leave it in the car if that's clearly legal. Don't gamble with your freedom because you didn't want to be inconvenienced. Here's the bottom line. The Second Amendment gives you a right, but that right has limits, and those limits change depending on where you are. The legal system isn't designed to make this easy. It's designed to let states control their own rules. That creates confusion. It creates traps. And it creates situations where good people with no bad intentions end up in handcuffs because they didn't understand the patchwork. You have to take responsibility for knowing the law. You can't outsource that to anyone else. Not the gun store, not your buddy who's been carrying for 20 years, not some random website. You have to know it yourself. And if you don't, you have to find someone who does and get real answers before you make a move. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want to keep learning about the laws that actually affect your daily life, go ahead and subscribe. This is the kind of content we focus on here, breaking down complicated legal systems into clear, practical information you can actually use. There's a whole community here that values staying informed and staying safe. You'll be glad you joined. We've got plenty more to cover. Gun laws aren't going to get simpler anytime soon. If anything, they're getting more complicated. More states are changing their rules. More court cases are working their way through the system. More people are buying firearms without really understanding what they're getting into. That combination is dangerous. It leads to mistakes. It leads to arrests. It leads to people losing rights they thought were protected. The smartest thing you can do is stay ahead of it. Don't wait until you're sitting in a police station trying to figure out what went wrong. Don't wait until you're hiring a lawyer to fight charges that could have been avoided. Take the time now to understand the rules. Take the time to be cautious. Take the time to think through your decisions before you act. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being smart. You wouldn't drive a car without knowing the traffic laws. You wouldn't sign a contract without reading it. You shouldn't carry a firearm without understanding the legal framework you're operating in. It's that simple. The law doesn't care about your good intentions. It cares about what you did and whether it was legal. So make sure what you're doing is legal before you do it. The Second Amendment is part of the foundation of this country. It represents a belief in individual rights and personal responsibility, but rights come with responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is knowing the rules and following them. Not because you're afraid, but because you respect the system and you respect your own freedom enough not to throw it away over something preventable. Stay informed, stay cautious, stay legal, and you'll be fine.